Rest granted. There you go.
Good, good. This is an interesting session. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July. We're going to have notes on everything we're talking about. We're at an interesting point here. We're approaching the due date for the applications, but then again, we've got programs going on, and we're going to do two things today. We're going to be talking about, in addition to current announcements, we're going to be talking about those things you could do less than a month out that could have a profound interest on the direction of your grant application. If you wait too long, in fact, our next PLC will be on the 19th, and we'll be talking about the landmines, the do's and don'ts, by that time you'll be well underway and you'll have written your grant pretty well, but that if you see one of these things and it may jar your memory, it'll give you a chance to make a mid-course correction that wouldn't be too involved. Today, we're going to be talking, Nolan's going to be discussing things you can do today that do major impacts that other people will probably not do or may overlook. And we grade these on the curve. And if you've done it and they haven't, it's going to put you ahead of the game for those of you who are submitting. For those of you who are not submitting, we're going to continue talking about what I call the back end of the cycle, which is student retention, how strategies you could use to try to keep your students interested in your program. We're going to be talking about graduate placement, and we're going to be talking about student tracking and different strategies that people are using for all of those. And we got a lot going on, so what we don't have time for in retention, placement and tracking, we'll talk about in the next session. So with that caveat, why don't we introduce ourselves, because we don't have a whole lot of people, and let's do it because we can. So Steve, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Steve Fenton, and I work with Mike and Nolan. I'm located in Venice, and right now we're kind of under some lightning storm. So if I vanish, it's not because I don't like you. It's because we got knocked out. So good to see everyone.
Okay, I'm Mike Senu, facilitating the sessions. I live in North Carolina. The weather is fantastic, although it's a little hot. The issue I bring to the table is my internet's been going in and out. So if I go blank, I'll try to get back in. We've all had that issue. It was unstable this morning, but hopefully it's okay now. I turned my routers off and turned them on, and we'll see how that goes. So you may have to wait for me to come back in a little later in the program. Nolan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Nolan Curtis. I lost my beard since the last time some of you saw me. The newest member of HMTRI, even though I've known these guys for 30 years, but I'm the one that allows Steve and Mike to be in the top 2/3 of the Brain Trust. And so, again, good to see everyone and glad to be here.
Iris. Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again. And you look better without your beard, you know that?
Yeah, you're the only one who thinks so. So thank you. You're now on my list.
You look younger.
Well wishers. You know.
Well, here in Puerto Rico, it's very hot today. So the heat is too much and the humidity. Nice to see you all.
Hi, Libby. Good to see you today.
Hello. Yes, the heat is bad here too. I've got thunderstorms rolling through too. So if I lose you guys, there's that. Not only that, but I've been having trouble with my camera. So it's been blinking on and off. So I'm probably going to end up turning off my camera because I don't know what's going on with it, but it's technical difficulty. But I'm in New Orleans. We're hot and humid also. We've been for at least 2 weeks now, way high in the heat index, in the 120s. So
Wow.
It's hot and miserable over here.
Well, that's a good hint. And I did that this morning. You turn off your camera and you lose less bandwidth. So sometimes that helps. Hi, Janet. How are you?
It's 88 and sunny here with like 10% humidity. Not to brag,
Ooh,
just thought, I'm Janet Curley. I'm in New Mexico. I'm with Santa Fe Community College, but I'm in Albuquerque. So it's about 5 degrees cooler in Santa Fe right now. So, and I'm in the middle of grant writing, so I may have to sneak out because we have our next meeting in about an hour. So I'm working on budgets and stuff like that.
okay. We're limiting, we'll be off in an hour, but make sure you stay tuned for Nolan's helpful hints because it might help you on your grant application.
Oh,
Mac?
well, the young man, Nolan.
Yes,
Yes.
this is Boy Nolan, as my wife calls it. You know, so.
Hey, Mac.
Hey everyone, my name is Mac Alabed, Senior Manager of Workforce here in Detroit from Southwest Economic Solutions.
Okay.
And we'll be seeing you in a little
Yeah.
bit.
Pretty soon. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, David.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm David. I'm in Texas. And that's all I'm going to say about the weather. It's not very cooperative.
Okay. Stevenson.
Shantae. Yeah.
Shantae, that's right. We'll wait for her to put her.
I am here. I'm
Hey,
sorry. Hi,
okay.
everybody. Good afternoon. I'm here. Yeah.
Uh,
Shante Vincent, Weston Neighborhood House, Region 3.
Okay.
Awesome.
Masood.
Hello, yes. My name is Masood Sales, and I work with Grounded Strategies in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Great. Ed Kelly.
Hey, everybody. Having a little bit of technical difficulties myself. Camera is glitching. So anyway, I'm in Pahrump, Nevada, which is about 65 miles northwest of Las Vegas, Nevada, between Las Vegas and Death Valley. So we are as hot as Hades.
Oh boy.
Nice
but-
backdrop.
but-
Low
oh, yeah.
humidity. Low humidity, right?
Low humidity. It's been
Wow.
but we went from 80 to 111 in a matter of 2 days.
Oh man.
So yeah.
Deborah. From Tacoma. It's beautiful up there, I bet.
Hi, yes, Deborah Trevorrow. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
No idea. Okay, well, good. I can't see myself. That's probably good too. So anyway, glad to see you all. And yeah, it's. I was complaining this morning, but I can't complain anymore about the temperature here. Our humidity is kind of ridiculous sometimes. So anyway, great forest here. They have a error show, the Blue Angels, and so on. So it's pretty fun.
Everyone wants to go to Tacoma. It's a beautiful place, that's for sure. Dane.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Dane, everyone. I'm with Cornerstones of Care. We're a nonprofit in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm applying to the Brownfields grant this year.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Okay. Bruce.
Hi. My video not coming on. Hi, I'm Bruce with Deep South Center for Environmental Justice here in New Orleans, Louisiana. We're just about as hot as Puerto Rico, but we're doing fine. This year, gearing up for the National Brownfield Conference in Detroit, where we also have a EC and HW program, workforce development program there also, and looking how we can implement more green strategies into our brownfields, especially solar.
Good. Okay. Jason.
Hello, Jason Iwaneski here, representing the Wrangle Initiative, Workforce Development Program for out of City College of New York. I am normally in New York. Right now I am at the Jersey Shore for the week. So
Oh, nice. Weather's pretty nice up there, isn't it?
It's a beautiful day to be sitting inside and discussing EPA brownfields. Yes.
Okay, well, let's do some work. We got a good mix of people who are in the midst of applying and some people who have grants already, but I think everyone
Hey.
might get something out of it. Did we miss someone, Steve?
Yes, we miss Karen. Karen
Oh,
came in.
okay. Where's Karen? Okay, she's not on my list. Oh, there she is. Hey, Karen, sorry.
Hey, no, that's okay. I joined a little late. Good afternoon, Karen Govan, Director of Workforce Development here at Southwest Economic Solutions. We currently have a job training and we'll be applying for the new
Oh,
session.
good.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, before Nolan gets into his tips and hints, Steve's going to give us a wrap up on some of the job training events that are going on. Steve.
Okay. All right. Well, probably the number one thing and why a lot of people are here today is the grant solicitation that's open and due August 2nd. Now that July 4th is in the rearview mirror, August 2nd will be here before you know it. So a lot going on. One of the things I wanted to mention, kind of in connection to that, the TAB providers are going to be offering a National Grant Writing Strategies Workshop. That's Thursday, next Thursday, July 13th, 2:30 Eastern. And the TAB providers include Kansas State University, University of Connecticut, and the University of West Virginia. They've partnered up to offer this National Grant Writing Strategies Workshop on the 13th. When I'm done with my piece, I'm going to drop the link and more information about that workshop in the chat box. It'll also be in the notes, but I want to make sure you get it, and I'll put it in the chat box as soon as we're done here. Also, Mike mentioned the National Brownfields Conference. That's also right around the corner. And the prelude to that is the Environmental Justice Caucus on Monday night, August 7th from 5 to 7. And it's over at the Huntington Place where the National Brownfield Conference will be. It'll be in the Portside Ballroom in room 260. And it's, if you haven't been to one, we'd encourage you to go. It's a locally driven event where people and organizations involved in environmental justice convene, share ideas, build relationships, and can communicate directly with EPA, since a lot of EPA representatives will be in a room. So highly encourage you, if you're going to the National Brownfields Conference anyway, the night before, Monday night, is that Environmental Justice Caucus. So I encourage you to go there, and the registration's still open if you haven't made up your mind or you're still considering whether or not to go. Registration is still open for the conference. And again, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be 180 educational sessions, mobile workshops, inspirational speakers. The event offers a unique opportunity to learn about the latest trends and best practices in brownfields remediation, redevelopment, environmental justice, and sustainability. So there's a lot going on, and encourage you to go if you can. We will be there. HMTRI will be at the conference. We'll be actually in booth 113. Nolan and I will be there. So if you're going, please stop by and see us. A lot of times, people will kind of use us as a home base, like if you got a backpack or something you want to leave behind, you can use our booth to do so. If you want to come and talk to employers or whatever, by all means, let us know. And if you have any brochures or things you would like us to advertise your program, let us know, or if you can provide them to us ahead of time, we can take them and distribute them, because that's what we're going to be there for, is to market your program. So by all means, if you have any brochures, you're coming, bring them, drop them off at our table. We'll talk to people that swing by and market the program. Also, if you're going, one particular workshop I want to kind of draw your attention to is on Thursday, from 3:15 to 4:15 in room 321. And two of our EPA grantees, Abby Walensky from Auberly and Thomas Gunther of Land Force will be there. They're giving a joint presentation along with the EPA Regional Coordinator, Gianni Rosati. It's going to be a really good one. So if you're at the conference, you might want to stop in and see that workshop. Also, a couple of questions have come in. Wanted to kind of share with you folks. One of the questions was, what does a commitment letter from a local employer entail? Are we asking them for a commitment to hire our graduates or for support in other ways, or what exactly? And so the response basically is commitment letters vary depending on the employers you're working with. In some cases, employers may be ready to commit to interviewing your graduates with the intention of hiring a number of workers. Smaller employers may not be in a position to make a commitment to hire at this time. In those cases, you might want to ask them to consider interviewing your graduates for possible employment depending on projected workloads in the future. At a minimum, ask potential employers to review your graduates for consideration. Inquire if they would be willing to write a note of support with their commitment. Also ask them if they might contribute to the program as an advisory committee member, a guest speaker, or even attend program events. So there's a number of ways that you can elicit support from employers. Some even provide in-kind support like equipment or facilities. Another question that comes up is, as graduation approaches, can you review the incentives for employers to hire our graduates? And here are a few incentives that some programs might offer, again, depending on locations, but some states have special tax incentives for employing graduates. Many large development contracts include first hire or project labor agreements requesting or requiring employers to hire from the local workforce. A major incentive for employers is program graduates are vetted, screened, and trained with technical skills and certifications. And another one is applicants from brownfield job training programs have demonstrated interest and motivation in beginning a new career. Graduates have also demonstrated the discipline and teamwork skills required for successful working groups. And in some cases, graduates have even been tested and are drug-free, again, depending on the program, location, et cetera. So program participants, some even entry-level graduates come with up to maybe $5,000 of training and certifications that they've had over time. So there's been a big investment put into those individuals. And then lastly, program participants have developed a network of other trained professionals available for employment. So there might be one graduate that they really like, they might want to hire more, and there's a whole class of potential graduates there. So there's a lot of incentives for employers to hire our graduates. The last question, in preparation for graduation, do you have suggestions for organizing the event? Here are some ideas. Graduations should be major events. They celebrate the beginning of new opportunities and stable jobs for many who have previously been left behind. Graduates need to be recognized for their accomplishments by their families and the community. This is why the best graduations are big events. Goes without saying that family and friends should be invited. And as a best practice, kind of the larger the audience, the better. Also, begin by inviting alumni. Attending graduation becomes kind of a reunion and also an opportunity to track those graduates in terms of what they're doing, what they've been doing since they left. Send an invitation to the mayor's office. If the mayor cannot attend, he or she may send a representative associated with the community. It might be assumed that these representatives will speak at the event, but if you are going to invite them, you might want to clarify that in advance. Also, invite a local elected official, depending on your jurisdiction where you're at. If you have a ward, a parish, or city councilman or woman, it's important for local elected officials to stay close to their constituencies. So this is an opportunity for them to meet those folks. Also, don't forget to invite employers, potential employers, and your EPA regional coordinator. Another suggestion would be to invite local media. That is something that's really important to do too. It can also give you some really good publicity. And last, I want to provide an idea that someone who's on here did, and I'll let them talk about it if they care to. But you could also have, broadcast your graduation over Zoom. And Janet Curley's on from Region 6, and she did this recently, and it was fantastic. One of the things about broadcasting it over Zoom is you have an opportunity for other people to attend that can't attend in person. Maybe it's a family member locally or a family member that lives out of the jurisdiction. And I remember with Janet's that the EPA coordinator who was in Texas was able to go on Zoom and watch the graduation happening in Santa Fe. So allows family, friends, EPA folks, and others. I mean, I jumped on, and I'm in Florida, so I got to watch a graduation ceremony in New Mexico in Santa Fe, and it was fantastic. So, and Janet, anything to add to that?
Well, it was if your place has the ability to do that broadcast, we had several, our EPA, my project manager couldn't travel because they don't have any travel funds. And she said there were several people in their office that watched the graduation. And I think for me, the most important part of our graduation ceremony are the testimonials that we let the students get up and give. And I was going to ask you, Steve, what was your impression of that part of the graduation ceremony?
That was fantastic. Those testimonials are so good, and it's inspiring. I mean, you get to hear them talk, and they just do such a great job. And their circumstances were all different, but all inspiring. I think that's fantastic. So that's a best practice or an idea, because that's something that you can do that doesn't cost a whole lot if you can just set it up to be able to do that. That really worked out well. And I don't know, did you record that by chance?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. But that's
I do know that afterwards we did record a number of individual testimonies so that we can upload those, because some people didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of people. But several of the people who didn't get up and talk did do individual testimonies, 2-3 minute testimonials.
Awesome.
I know those are videoed.
Yeah, we'd like to see those too, because we would like to show them at one of our upcoming virtual events. So
yeah, I'm trying
anyway,
to talk that too.
Awesome. So those are just some ideas there. Those graduation events are really important, and inviting everybody to attend and making a big deal of it is really, really awesome. So I guess with that, any questions from anyone?
No, I think the power of politicians is enormous. When you have city council member or representative government, all of a sudden a lot of people decide, oh, maybe we ought to go, whether they're city contractors or EPA people. It's one of those things that gains momentum, and it pays dividend in all the other things we're going to be talking about later.
Michael, my politicians couldn't attend. However, they have put on the bond for November in the city of Santa Fe, make Janet's work training place. And so they're advertising it on the radio and everything, trying to get support to get me money to renovate my laboratory. So I have a good training place with everything there. They're asking for $800,000.
Nice.
Wow, awesome.
Well, let's see if Nolan can jar your memories of something you haven't done. Jen has done many of these things already, but Nolan, do you want to, any other comments before we turn it over to Nolan?
These are some tips that make your applications stand out. Many of them, hopefully, are things you're already doing or have already done. Some of them might be blinding flashes of the obvious, but some might be aha moments. And there's still time, if you've played sports, and now that they have the microsecond clocks, there's still plenty of time, to set up the last play and take the last shot. So here's a couple of things. One, attend, participate, and document public meetings in the narrative section of the RFA. So there might still be public meetings or places you can go where you're just able to stand up and introduce yourself and say you have a program name. But it's important to put that in your RFA that you've attended or been a participant in these public meetings. That helps with that tie to local government and local organizations. Establish an advisory board prior to application submission. And the board members should include representatives from the community, government, training organizations, employers, leveraging partners, and supporters. So again, you're looking for where can you get information that you might not already have, or resources that you don't already have, or good advice on what you should be doing. So especially the employer and other agency parts are very good for those relationships. Compete, screen, and select positive trainers with the condition of EPA funding as part of the application development process. So again, these might be conditional. If we get the grant, then we would like you to fulfill a certain position. So you don't have to guarantee anything because you don't yet have the grant, but you want to kind of line up who those trainers are going to be or what that process will be. Obtain employer letters of support and commitment to consider program graduates. So Mike, I believe, had mentioned this earlier, or Steve, that again, the employers don't have to guarantee they'll hire, but if we can get commitments that they will interview or will consider, or any of those softer words, all of those things are good because it means you have an employment outcome or a likely employment outcome for the graduates of your program. Recruit and commit key partners regarding specific contributions to the program. So oftentimes in a grant, we think about money, and we also need to think about what can money buy or what can be leveraged through relationships. So again, these key partners might be names on your letterhead. As Mike mentioned, it's good to have those local politicians or community movers and shakers just being associated with your program. They might not be able to give you funding, but they might be able to give you loaned executives or loan staff, everything from trainers to admin support to executives to help with your board. So again, these key partners, equipment, facility space, transportation, meals, all of those things, these are people who can help support your program, wraparound services, et cetera. Obtain letters of commitment from partners and governmental organizations leveraging BJT resources identified in the application. So one thing that federal grants like to see is that they are not the sole funder of whatever it is you're doing. They like to see their money leveraged and that money then bringing in other money or additional resources so that it increases the value of that federal investment. Ensure the curriculum offerings are supported by the labor market assessment and fundable as presented in the BJT guidelines. One of the worst things you can do is have a person go through training, have them make all those commitments, and have no job at the end of that pipeline, right? So we want to make sure that the training that we're giving is connecting to actual work. And so you really want to look at your local labor market assessment and make sure that between the BJT grants and the training that you really are targeting those areas where there's actually a need for the outcome that you're providing to those people in your program. Follow your timeline. Hold contributors responsible for commitments made during planning sessions. So even though these things may be soft and fuzzy, I always ask for a what by when and give people very specific timelines for those things that they're willing to do or offer or say they'll do, whether that's returning a letter, whether that's making a presentation, whether that's providing a good or service. Again, have those timelines and hold them responsible. As the narrative is constructed, avoid generalizations, be as quantitative as possible. So, if somebody says, well, we have an employer that's willing to interview some of our graduates, okay, that's kind of fuzzy, how many when? So we have an employer that will interview at least 4 of our graduates within 1 week of graduation. I mean, the more specific you can get, the more real and tangible that the opportunity presents itself. as single individuals should be responsible for writing, a single individual should be writing the final proposal. Now, for some of you, that's not a stretch because you're the only one, right? But for others, there's sort of this Renga or group writing exercise where different people are responsible for putting together different sections of the grant. So one person needs to sort of oversee that and go through it to make sure there's a consistent writing style, and it ensures continuity and avoids piecemeal responses and contradictions. So one thing that we've done in grant writing is we look at what is in the RFA and then where is that specifically answered in our grant. And so that final walkthrough and check through saying they asked for this, where do we answer the mail? They asked for that, where did we answer the mail? Because sometimes, especially with multiple writers, things get cut and pasted and things drop out. So it's really important to kind of do that check. Circulate program plans to key partners noted above during the development of the application, and send drafts of the proposal to advisors and key partners for review. Nothing worse than having one of your key people surprised, saying, I didn't know that, or I didn't realize that, or so again, you want to be over communicate, to the point where they go, okay, great, I got it. But again, it keeps people in the loop. Previous performance is not a slam dunk or guarantee of continued funding. So EPA is aware of existing and BJT alumni have an advantage over new applicants. Legacy programs need to demonstrate why their program deserves to be refunded or expanded. So again, just because you got it before doesn't mean you're automatically going to get it again. In fact, this year, they said if you got it last year, you can't even apply. But the idea is so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or grow a new brain, but it's like, well, what else? What enhances this? Why is this still relevant? And what are you doing to meet additional challenges? Because the BJT program was established as startup funding, proposal reviewers do not want to fund recycled applications. For this reason, relationships must be updated with new offerings, commitments of support, and expanded partnerships. So again, make it fresh, right? You can't keep serving the same thing for dinner and expect people to come back to the restaurant. So, you have to figure out a way to say, we have new challenges, here's how we're meeting them. Janet?
I have a question. They've decreased the narrative from 15 to 12 pages. And I'm finding it very difficult to get the updated what we're doing with our partners in there, just so you know.
Okay, so that's feedback that we want to keep that and capture that and return that. But it means one is succinct, and maybe it's a focus a little bit more on what's new versus what was done. I don't know, exactly how your narrative is structured, but it's this idea that says, we have this challenge or we have this opportunity. Here's how we're meeting it or how we're planning to meet it. And
okay,
so when in doubt, and this is for especially the people who are considering application or the new application or re-apps. When in doubt, submit a BJT application, even if more preparation could have resulted in a better program plan. So it may not be an A+ application. You may even have some kind of glaring gaps, if you will, in terms of, oh my gosh, we didn't get a good advisory board in place, or I really don't have enough employer support. We would encourage you to go ahead and submit the application anyway. Unsuccessful applicants will have opportunities to debrief and review their grant with suggestions for improvement. So those who are not funded in this cycle will have a head start in the next competition with additional mentoring and technical assistance between grant cycles. So what we're saying is that once you submit the grant and that deadline is up, about 2 weeks later, they do a first cut. And they tell one group of people, yeah, thanks for playing, but it's not going to happen. Well, you do get a debrief, though, that'll then highlight what was sort of deficient, or what they found lacking in that proposal, which simply puts you further ahead in writing it for the next time. If you hold back and don't even apply, then you don't even know where your proposal is actually lacking or what they're thinking. So we encourage you to go ahead and submit the application if you believe you can meet some of the major threshold, even if it's not letter perfect. So we're going to have these in the notes, and those should be out and sent out to you hopefully Monday, Tuesday, and next week. And so these and other tips. Any other tips or questions? Or okay, well, I'll turn it over to Michael for maximizing retention rates.
Well, those are really good suggestions, and we're less than a month away, and you want to focus on those things that do take time. It's getting those letters of support, bringing in advisory board people, perhaps vetting contractors so you could mention them in the narrative. And as Janet's point, being very succinct, because exactly right. Sometimes it's a lot harder. It's much harder to write a short essay than it is a long one. So you really emphasize numbers as much as you can. EPA loves to see numbers rather than generalities, and numbers can say things much more succinctly than a generalization. So to the extent that you can be very specific about it. And of course, as Nolan said, every question needs an answer, and which again makes it difficult. Maybe short answers, but the evaluators are going to be looking at those questions they're asking and how did you answer that? And if you're going to take 4 sentences to answer it versus 1, that's going to make it a much tougher job. So it's a double-edged sword. This is a tough grant to apply for because you have to have it pretty well laid out. And the more you can do before it starts, the better off you are. Of course, we didn't even mention the fact that you want to make sure that you're set up with grants.gov. That's almost a given. When we've talked about that in prior PLCs. We'll talk about it in the next one, just to do a dry run, just to make sure that everything is good before you submit your grant. But for the most part, you want to make sure that you've got everything you need for grants.gov in case there's something you need to get past the threshold. Key is get past the threshold criteria. That when you get into evaluation, we're grading on the curve. Depends how many people make it into the threshold. There may not be as many people this time. Remember, we're doing 5-year grants now. So, and last year's winners can't participate this year. So it's something to just get into that final competition and be as concise as you can. Well, with
Remember,
that,
it's not too late.
Go ahead.
There's plenty of time.
It's never too late. Well, it isn't too late until
Run
it's
the
too
play.
late. Yeah. This is when time condenses. It's amazing how fast it condenses. Yeah, Janet.
I'm helping Farmington. The city planner for the city of Farmington is a graduate of my training program 9 years ago, and she's applying for her first job training grant for the Farmington area.
Great.
And I'm so proud of her.
Thanks, Ma.
Yeah, she contacted me and said, "Can you help?" And so I'm helping, some
All
other
right.
folks.
You're a good mom, Janet. And you'll have
if
many
she,
successful children, I'm sure.
but and if she doesn't get on the first try, that is not a mark against her. And in fact, they will be nurturing her till the next one. So you don't want to go in with a defeatist attitude, but you put your something that you could build on for next time.
Yeah.
Great idea.
But
Well, some of our grantees, they have amazing retention and graduation placement rates. I mean, when I say amazing, that's 100%. And others struggle. And it gets back to several different issues. I'm going to talk about 3 that you really have a certain amount of control, and there's some external factors in terms of retention that you don't have a lot of control about, but maybe you could expand your partnership so that you might be able to mitigate some of these issues. The first one is whether BJT program is really a good fit. And this comes down to your recruitment. So often, and particularly new grantees, they get panicky and they take whoever comes in the door. And that selection process is just so important. If you're picking a good team of motivated people, it makes a big difference. And you're going to have people with socioeconomic disparities. You're going to have people that are much different. You're going to have issues with people who belong to different social groups. Those could be very positive. Sometimes pairing an older experienced person with a young person is a really positive thing. Sometimes it can be a negative. The same thing with someone from one demographic moving to another demographic. So you have to get a feel in that orientation whether that person really is a good fit. If you end up with someone that you get this feel that he's going to be a lone wolf, he's going to be in the corner by himself, and he's not going to be really participating in the program, it's a little bit of a caution flag when you're recruiting, because he's indicating that he may not be good in a team, and he may feel uncomfortable. And if he's kind of the lone wolf, the guy on the side, not participating, when things get a little bit rough, he's just going to decide, I think I'll just skip it this week, or I'll skip it next week. And 1 week turns into 2 weeks, ends up in the dropout. So you really want to begin with the recruitment. And there are other things that could cause this, and we'll talk about it when we talk about externalities, but someone who lives across town or in another county or far away, and there's a transportation issue, he's going to be really struggling to get to class. And you want to bring him in because he may be motivated, but he's just going to have a hard time. He doesn't have a car, or he's got to rely on people. He can't take time off of a part-time job. These are the red flags that go, they're really screening issues, but they're really retention issues. And the interesting thing is, it starts with screening, but it doesn't manifest itself until you get halfway through the program when they drop out. And the root cause was way back in the very beginning when you got started. And you're doing no one any favors if he decides, I don't belong in this group, I just don't fit. So he's wasted half his training, half his time, and your time, and he's taken up a seat. So you want to catch that right off the bat. It's also, you want to, your program's got to be a welcoming place. People have to want to come to your program. It can't be a chore. I'm going to training, or I'm going to class. We've all had classes in high school or college. Well, boy, we dreaded that class. There might be a lot of reasons we dreaded it. It might be the instructor, the teacher. It might just be the atmosphere. We're not having fun in the classroom. Now, that sounds kind of hokey, but it's true. You could have fun in a classroom, or you could just be, it's just a, you're in there to like work. You're trying to learn, master the principles, and get out and get a good job. No, that does not really work. You really want to have them motivated to come to class. They come to class, you know, just for the heck of it. That's really the golden class, when people are fun. They've made friends in the class. You've got a lot of peer-to-peer networking, and we talk about that throughout the year, how important it is to have these circles, to have mentoring, to have a buddy system where when you find two students who get together and one takes one under the wing, this is where old and new really work out. When you've got an experienced person, particularly in ex-offender programs, returning citizens, when you've got someone who's been there, done that, and someone who just is returning. And the older fella takes it on himself to help mentor the younger fella. They both want to come to class to be with their friend. They're going to learn something, maybe more than they're going to learn from this program. They're going to learn from their friend, their mentor. And the older person who's had the experience is going to be thrilled about a purpose of mentoring this younger person. So to the extent that you could develop social relationships within your program so that people, again, enjoy their classmates. Many of you, and I'm sure those of you who've got experienced programs, they've developed friendships that carry on beyond graduation, whether it's the military or whether it's any other organization where you're working close together. People develop these relationships that will keep a person in class. It will keep them, because he may decide, oh, I can't do this. I've got a problem at home. I've got a financial problem. The buddy or the friends will say, no, you got to stick with it because we're in this thing together. So you want to develop those relationships. And I don't want to leave the topic without talking about gender neutral programs. Many of our programs have a mix of men and women, returning citizens, non-returning citizens, people who have come from fairly well-to-do families, people who have struggled for a long time. Gender neutrality is really important. If you've got one woman in a all-male class, is that really, that goes back to recruitment again. Is that going to be a healthy thing? Is that person going to be singled out in a positive or negative way? Some people will have uniforms where everyone's dressing the same. They do that up in California. Everyone wears uniforms. It's just like a faith-based school. You take away all of those issues of and promote gender neutrality. So you have to consider, is your marketing material gender neutral? Do you have women role models in an all-male class, or do you have males in an all-women class? It could both work both ways. So you want to be gender neutral. You don't want, many of us, remember I went through engineering at Purdue. There was out of 400 engineers, there might have been 1 or 2 or 5 women in it. And they felt very isolated when you talk about the lone wolf syndrome of it's me against all these guys. And they may be positive towards me or they might be hostile towards me. So you've got to be sensitive to that. And if you're only going to have, say, 1 female in an all-male class, you may want to think about that going way back to your screening. You may want to have a mixed class. You may all female or an all male class. That's your decision, but you want to be sensitive to that, because if you're not, again, that person, if they become a lone wolf, they become discriminated against or just not bullied, but just feels they're not welcome there, they're going to eventually drop out. It'll be one of those silent things. You may not know why. They're just not interested in going to class. It's not a welcoming place for them. The other thing that is really important in keeping your students in class is you have to demonstrate to them that there is a career path here. This is a specialty field. And it's not like you're coding, you're training coding and you're going to come out and there's jobs for coders, or you're going to do a Department of Labor program where you're training cashiers and you're going to train them and they give that skills and they're going to go out. This is a career development path. And all the way through it, you have to be encouraging to your students that this is a viable and positive career move for them. And how do you do that? The best way to do it is bring in workers who are successful, bring in alumni. We'll talk about that later too. As guest speakers, testimonials are fantastic. When a student is in a class and he's talking to someone who's been there, done that, and I'm really successful now, and this has been the greatest thing that I've ever done. It's motivation, because it's person, you have to remember, he does not know the future. He does not know what's ahead of him. So he's putting a lot of faith in your program. But if he hears from a graduate, he hears from an accessible person, and it doesn't have to be a graduate of your program. It could be someone who's working in the field. You might bring your consultants in, or even your trainers, and have them as guest speakers. It's really important to have the trainers as guest speakers, or alumni, or business people, potential employers, which again, we'll talk about in a minute or two. Very important to bring them into the program. And what you're trying to do is demonstrate, not only is there a future, there's a great future, and you just got to stick with it. And here's the direction. You could also do things like internships and pre-apprenticeship programs. You could do job shadowing programs. Going on field trips is fantastic. If you could go to actual sites and see people that you're going to be like them, and they're doing some things that you'd like to be doing. So all of those things, all those together will keep someone in a program if things get a little difficult. The thing I haven't mentioned, and we've talked, and I'm going to briefly talk about it, is the externalities, the external programs. They could do all the things, you're doing all the things right we just described, but they've got personal problems. that you may or may not even know about. And those might include shelter, financial issues, legal issues, dependent care issues, transportation issues, which we talked a little bit about, scheduling issues. They may have another part-time job. They may live across town, their car broke down. Now, this grant allows for childcare, some childcare expenses, but may not necessarily dependent care. There may be some issues at home that came up. There may be some legal issues that you're not aware of that they're facing as a result of their criminal history. There may be some financial issues, which again, the grant allows you to help mitigate with stipends. But there might be some things you could mitigate to help them get some part-time employment. They need money. Everybody needs money. And they may say, hey, I love the program. There's a great future. I love being here with my friend, but I need money. And so it's something you have to think about. In some programs, as we see it, whether it's Fortune Society or Auberly, people come in, they need shelter. And some programs have partners that they're able to connect them with social services to get them shelter. We have a program that they're able to help them with transportation. So those are things that you could do to take that retention rate up as high as you possibly can. In the last 5 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about graduate placement, which Steve already talked about. You want to use your graduates as your best advocates for placement. You definitely want to keep your employers involved. One of the interesting things that some grantees are doing is they have social events just for employers. Okay, they're just for employers. So they'll invite the employers in the community, and you could call it a seminar. And what you're doing is you're promoting your program, and you're promoting all the good things, and you might have testimonials from your students, and you might have some students there. But what these employers are doing is they're actually socializing among themselves, and they're bonding with your program at the same time. So they're going to come in and say, hey, this is a pretty good program, and my competitors are hiring these people. I really need to look at this. This is something that I can make work. In the past, they may say, well, we don't do that. We don't hire these people from job training programs. They may see their competition and other employers, they're frenemies, and they say, we have to start one of these programs because they're doing it and they're getting good results. So get those employers involved as much as possible. Of course, Steve talked about getting letters of support from them. The ones that are committing to hiring, you want to definitely get letters of support. That also tracks into the tracking, the graduation and tracking are all together. It's understood when you're working with employers that you're going to indicate to them that you'd like to know how these students are doing in their employment. And so the employers you're engaging with should know that you're going to follow up with your students. That's a positive to the employer. He would like to know that someone is looking out for this student, a graduate. It's a plus for your program. It says a lot about what you're doing. So you want to keep in touch with the employer. You also want to keep in touch with the graduates. And how do you do that? Well, we talked about alumni nights. That works in a whole lot of areas in terms of retention and being mentors to students. You want to have your alumni not only come to graduation, but you want to set up alumni nights. It might be at a bar. It might be a beer night where you've got alumni and students, social events of some sort. You want to certainly encourage them to stay with their social media accounts. People will tune in to your Facebook page just to see what's going on. You know, I graduated last year. What's that program doing this year? You know, what are they up to? And to the extent that you could use that as tracking, certainly when they come back to your program, you can get tracking information on a very informal basis. And tracking is one of the hardest things to do for EPA because people leave, traditionally, they leave these programs and you never see them again. And so you've got to develop what's in it for the person who leaves. Some of the programs are offering free refreshers, which is a great idea, recertification. or just a refresher without recertification. Let them come back, let them sit in on some classes. Doesn't cost you anything. Have them come back to the program just to catch up. There might be some new reference or training materials that they could keep up with. Have them come back to the program. Offer them to recertify for those programs that need recertification, like hazmat. They are your best advocates, and you want to keep track of them. Other people have suggested you might also work with the WIB, that they sometimes will do some tracking. But this is tracking, as those of you who have done it know, it's difficult. But use all the tricks you have in the book to try to get those graduates coming back. And it builds on everything I just talked about. If they're friends, they feel comfortable with the program, they make bonds with other students, they're interested in seeing what happened to the other guys that were in this program. They're kind of as interested in your program as you are into them. And you don't have to, in your tracking, it doesn't have to be a hardcore, all sorts of numbers. You want to keep files on everyone. And well, we've had the response from grantees. How long do you track? Well, forever. Eric will up in Oakland will say, well, we kind of keep track as long as we can, because they're always positive as a program, and I think we could help them. So that when you put all those things together, which is retention and making feel comfortable in the program, graduate placement and tracking, it kind of sums up that whole tail end of the program. And you kind of want to emphasize that while it comes at the tail end of the program, and if you're writing a grant, it's real easy to forget about these things. But in your narrative, it's another very important thing, that if you mention it and you demonstrate to EPA that you're sensitive to this and nobody else is, again, that's a plus for your application in terms of being accepted or not being accepted. So think about it as you go through, and how are you going to do retention strategies? What are you going to do for graduate placement? What strategies are you going to use when you track, or how are you going to track? And we'll kind of wrap that up. And these will all be in the notes, so you could read it. We'll send those out early next week. Does anyone have any comments on your success or issues of tracking? Yeah, Lois.
Hi, everyone. My question is about getting a commitment from the mayor's office versus the employer. I'm having a time trying to create this letter I need to send out. What should I be asking, or
well,
ask that question?
Yeah, and people could key and add to what I'm saying. The things that you mention in your grant is who you want your commitment letters from. If the mayor's office isn't going to do anything for you, no, the commitment letter isn't quite so important. You could indicate that you've announced intentions to be at a city council meeting.
And I have.
If I had a choice between an employer who's going to say, I want to hire your students, I'd like to look at them and consider them strongly for employment, versus a mayor who says, oh yes, we think this would be good for our community, I would take the employer over that. Okay. And also that person who is you're saying you're going to leverage social services, you're going to provide transportation and some shelter for your students. If you want to get a commitment from someone, you want a letter from them. In other words, anyone who is leveraging, who is important in your grant you're going to be talking about, you want a commitment letter from them. Those are the important ones. In other words, if someone's going to commit, it's one thing to say, well, we're going to get this from HHS, we're going to get this from communities and schools, and we're going to get the Salvation Army to do this. No. What is the Salvation Army going to give you? They're going to give you literacy training. They're going to give you help in resume writing. They're going to give you some help with shelter. Then you want to go to them and say, can you provide us a letter of support that you will provide these services to us. Be very specific. And
Okay.
so when the evaluator looks at it, oh yeah, they said they're going to get it, and they got a commitment letter. And
Yeah, I have a slightly counter view. I would not short shrift political letters of support. So coming from a mayor or the director of a port district or something, if they might not be able to offer you anything specific, which is important, what Mike was talking about. But if they can say something like, we really support this program and we look forward to them as being a key partner in our continued economic development, or we'll be working with our other agencies to look into, the utilization of graduates from this program. I mean, those things can be very powerful, because it doesn't just mean that they said, oh yeah, you seem like, okay, you're a nice person. It's more of, yes, we are looking at, and as this organization's success being part of our success. So if they can put it in terms of their overall strategy for economic development, or their overall strategy for job development or youth empowerment, or whatever context, then that letter of support has a context, as opposed to just saying, yes, we think this is a nice program.
Well, that's
so
true,
again,
but
it's back to the specifics. And Mike's
in the
correct. Somebody
RFA,
can say we're offering jobs, that's better.
yeah,
But
yeah, in the RFA, it says that what are they going to do for you, and you want to make sure that if it's good to use them as partners, absolutely, and as it is to use the WIB and use you might have 20 partners, but you've only got 15 pages of to do all of your attachments, and so you want to be careful to not have a lot of prestigious people. I mean, you could have them as partners, but if you're going to have a commitment letter, they got to commit to something concrete, and that's in RFP, and that you want to do that, definitely.
Right, and so like I said, but cities have departments, and so we're looking at employment coming out of a number of those city departments. And so, again, I think you have to balance it, but look at, what does this lead to? And again, the softer it is, the less valuable it is. But if they can really tie it to something, and I think that keyword is commit, that's where you have an advantage. But each place is different, so in terms of how that works, and so.
I can Google a letter, a commitment letter, and basically put my
I'm sorry, you're dropping off.
I was saying, could I Google a commitment letter or some type? I need something solid that I could come up with a commitment letter for the employer and the whoever I need to send it.
Come up with a standard, some sort of letter. You could do it. Well, of course, those start with a verbal. You're gonna be talking to them first as partners, and you're going to be talking to the employer first, and then you're going to be asking them a question: would you be willing to look at our students? And he said, yeah, we'll be looking. Then you want to go to the next step, and you want to say, can I send you a letter that you could review and use as a commitment letter to support our program? And he says, well, you send it to me. Then you want to customize it to him. You don't want all the commitment letters to look exactly the same, but you would. So for the employers, you would say something to the extent of, we really support the Brownfield Job Training Program by such and such group, and we are interested in interviewing their graduates. That would be very specific to employers. Now, it will be a different letter when you write to someone providing leverage services. If someone is going to provide the non-supported training, it'll be different for each one. And again, that starts with a conversation. It might be goodwill, it may be a WIB, or it may be someone in the mayor's office, but you have to have specifically who it is. And then you would say, we would like for our application to have a specific support letter and a commitment. And if we get this grant, would you supply 10 hours of training in resume writing. And they said, sure, we could do that. And then you would write that letter to them that said, with their letterhead and address, it said, you know, we support this program and we would like to leverage our program by providing resume writing, you know. So again, it's very specific deliverable for that leverage service to that person. So what you're going to end up in your grant application package is you're going to have commitment letters from employers and from leverage services that this is what we have promised to do, you know. Now, if it's an employer, they don't know what their workload is going to be. So you have to put a caveat in there, depending on the economy, depending on, we would like to look at them, depending on our hiring practices at the time. So you want to soften that up. If it's a commitment letter for leverage services, EPA is going to be saying, well, you're offering these services, you're going to have someone that's going to commit to delivering them. In other words, if you're going to say this is unsupported training, you're going to provide financial literacy. Well, who's going to do that? You can't do it with EPA funds. So what you would want to do is maybe a bank, or it might be Salvation Army or Goodwill that said, we support the program and we would like to provide 10 hours of training in financial literacy, or or if someone, transportation's another example. Someone's going to get free bus rides to and from training as long as they're in the program. You would want to go to the Department of Transportation, whoever is going to give you this leverage resource, and you're going to say, we like the program and we have committed to provide free transportation on our bus line to this program for as long as they're in the program. You know, so each one of these is a little specific. They all start out with, we support the program, we like the program. Yeah, Nolan, would you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to answer Lois's question a little bit different way. We right now do not have a database, for example, of commitment letters. So there's no place I can send you where you click on it and say, oh, here's 10 sample letters. Okay, so just to be clear, we don't have that kind of database. And I would encourage, if any of the other participants, even though you don't want to copy it verbatim, have a commitment letter that you're willing to share with Lois. If you would get in touch with her on the chat and get her address, and you might want to, let her look at or send her a copy of what you've done. But that's just a little bit different. Everything you're saying is correct, but just to kind of cut to part of the chase is we don't have a database that's saying, oh, click here and you'll see a list of commitment letters, or click here, a list of documents. Right? Okay, so I'm sorry, Mike. Keep going.
Thanks.
Okay. So if somebody feels especially generous and kind, contact my good friend Lois. And
commitment letters are a little tough, that's.
But part of it is just if you've never gotten started, you just want to see what does that even look like,
Well, the other comment that has been made is we only have 15 pages in the attachment, so you could only have so many commitment letters. So you want to get the most powerful ones you can in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to reach out to Mac Alabed. Before you put up your handsome portrait picture in your live feed, you kept palm planting your face. And I want to know if you're okay, or if it was just listening to our sonoric voices just had you in distress.
Oh, no, not at all. I am thinking about other stuff. Yeah. Thinking about writing the grant, and as soon as you said 15 pages, I'm like, oh crap. But yeah, we'll figure that out.
All right. I was just checking in. I just want to make sure you're okay. So.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
All right.
It's everyone says that. We're like, Matt, what's wrong? I'm like, that's how I think.
One issue to remember is the problems you're having is the same problem everyone else is having. So you're kind of all in the same boat. And
yeah.
So get the powerful ones, and do what you can there. And
Mike-
like I say, yes, sir.
Mike, if Lois is still on, Deborah would like her email address. So, oh, there you are. Okay,
Great.
perfect, perfect.
Okay. And anyone else that's in the chat, it's in the chat. Well, at this
those
point,
of
I
you
know
who-
you're all in the crunch. This is
I'm going to
this
say,
is
those of you who can enjoy the heat,
this is the crunch time, and you know, the more you can get out of the way now, it's time speeds up as you get closer to it.
so again, right now there's still time. By next week, it'll be, here's the things, we won't even do it, here's what you should have done. We'll just kind of go through, here's a couple of things that are deal breakers, you know, or that in the past EPA has identified as, you know, make sure this isn't in there as opposed to what is in there. But again, we wish all of you the best and keep at it. Don't give up. And we encourage you, if you're thinking of applying, go ahead and apply, you know, give it your best shot and submit, you know, and so and that's the best you can do.
Deborah has her hand up. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, sorry, I'm unable to open the chat to see if Lois put her email address in there, and I don't want to drop the ball on this. You guys are you able to open it?
Yep.
Okay. And
You
even
said
if
you said you can't open it.
it's not popping open, yeah, so I can't
Oh,
help
okay.
her.
Well, why don't I just send it to you?
Okay, that
Because
sounds good.
I have your
Steve.
email address. Yeah, so I'll just send it to you, and then
Alright.
you'll have Lois's email address.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I think our hour is well used. And if there's not any more chats that we need to respond to, I think we'll let our people go, as they say.
Best wishes to everybody.
Get back to your typewriters and uniform tablets.
I strongly encourage you to submit. And, you know, when you're at this stage, you think, oh boy, this is going to be a job putting this all together. But if you start chipping away at it, it gets a little easier as you go along. And you do have still a month. So good luck with it.
Now is when the fun begins. This is the most fun you will ever have. So,
well, it's good for 5 years. So 5.
Karen's bought into that. She goes, yes, I agree. All right. Good luck, everyone.
Steve, do you want to turn the recording off? So
sure.
Okay.
Before I
Thank
say
you.
something silly. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Sorry for joining.